We're looking at Phoenix this morning because Phoenix has given us a major development in the U.S. presidential election. Arizona going into Joe Biden's win column and strengthening his hold on the Electoral College. Ellen Morrow is in Washington as we look at Phoenix. So Arizona, with its 11 Electoral College votes, hasn't had a Democratic presidential vote since 1996. And Bill Clinton's re-election, Ellen, now it is for Joe Biden.
That's right. And Arizona is the fourth state, Heather, that Donald Trump won back in 2016 that Joe Biden has now flipped in this election. The bigger picture is that Joe Biden has 290 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 217. Of course, as we were talking about last week, that magic number was 270, which Biden crossed on Saturday. Biden is also up 5 million ballots in the popular vote. So given all of that, this ongoing Republican refusal to accept the reality of the election is really getting even harder to understand. State officials, both Republicans and Democrats, have all said there was no widespread fraud. On top of that, last night, an office at the Department of Homeland Security put out a statement essentially rebuking President Trump, saying there is a lot of misinformation out there and that this election was the most secure in American history. And yet, despite Biden's numbers, despite the lack of evidence of widespread fraud, that the election was rigged, more world leaders have actually congratulated Joe Biden than Republicans here in Washington. There is a sign that maybe, just maybe, the tiniest cracks are starting to form. Several senators, including Chuck Grassley, the most senior Republican senator, and Trump ally Lindsey Graham, have both said that Joe Biden should start receiving those presidential daily intelligence briefings. The very briefings that Biden has so far been blocked from getting, along with millions of dollars to actually fund his transition. But even still, those Republicans are not actually acknowledging Biden as president-elect. Republicans have argued that all of the president's lawsuits should finish playing out before they recognize a winner, but several of those lawsuits have been thrown out. The others are very unlikely to alter any results. A law firm representing the Trump team in Pennsylvania actually said today they've cut ties. Along with all of that, the recount starting today in Georgia, where Biden is up by 14,000 ballots, is very unlikely to actually end up giving Trump the state. Even if it did, somehow Trump would not win the election. Biden's former boss, President Barack Obama, sat down with 60 Minutes and accused the Republicans of undermining democracy.
More troubled by the fact that other Republican officials who clearly know better are going along with this, are humoring him in this fashion. It is one more step in delegitimizing not just the incoming Biden administration, but democracy generally. And that's a dangerous path.
And this Republican resistance, Heather, speaks to the hold Donald Trump has on the party. Republicans do not want to risk losing their base by angering President Trump. But consider the cost here. A poll this week found that 70% of Republicans don't think this election was free and fair, even though there just hasn't been any evidence to back up these claims of widespread fraud.
So Barack Obama, his voice adding to the discussion this morning. Ellen, what about from the Biden team, from the Trump team, any from them today, too?
Well, Joe Biden's new chief of staff, when he takes office, Ron Klain, gave an interview last night saying it's full steam ahead, but called the obstruction from the Trump side unreasonable and said it could potentially slow things down. President Trump has been active on Twitter, pushing these baseless allegations of widespread fraud, but he hasn't been out in public all that much, Heather. Just one public appearance this week, which is pretty unusual for Donald Trump. There is some reporting that in this time, as he's been, sort of in hiding at the White House, he's been contemplating running again in 2024, even as he's refusing to admit he lost this time.
Ellen Morrow, thank you very much from Washington this morning.